collectively have a quorum. All the commissioners are here except Commissioner McAnally, was not able to attend this morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask that you please stand and join us in the pledge of allegiance, followed by, you feel like lead us in prayer, Brother Dee?
Yeah.
Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Lord God, as we come before you this morning, we come before you with a grateful heart. We ask you, Lord, to give us guidance and direction with our fiduciary trustees that are handling our funds for the county. And we ask you to give us discretion and good judgment. And we ask you, Lord, to help us to make this community what it is intended to be. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
You need some help?
No, I think that's pretty close. I need that.
You got your highlighter out?
All right. Item number 4, public hearing for fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. This year's budget proposes a tax rate of 0.507776 per $100 valuation. The proposed tax rate, as I said, is 0.50776 per $100. No new revenue tax rate. That's the rate that's equal to what the rate that will bring us in. Exactly the same amount of money as we operated on last year is 0.548071 per $100. And the voter approval rate, aka the rollback rate, is 0.50776 per $100, which is the same thing as our proposed rate. I keep saying 20, this might be the 19th budget I've done. We've never proposed a rate over the rollback rate. That would be ridiculous. That would cause the electorate to be able to have a call for a rollback rate. The no new revenue tax rate is the 2024 tax year that will raise the same amount of money, same amount of property tax revenues for San Jacinto County from the same properties in both the 2023 tax year and the 2024 tax year. The voter approval rate is the highest tax rate that San Jacinto County may adopt without holding an election to seek voter approval of the rate. The proposed tax rate is greater than the no new revenue tax rate. This means San Jacinto County is proposing to increase property taxes for the 2024 tax year. And as I said, the tax proposed rate as required by law to be held this morning at 9 o'clock. Here at the shelter, 255 Live Oak Coast Line, Texas. I'm sorry, y'all go ahead.
No, I'm asking a question. Okay. No, I was just asking something.
Proposed tax rate is not greater than the voter approval rate tax rate. As a result, San Jacinto County is not required to hold an election in which voters may accept or reject the proposed tax rate. However, you may express your support at their offices or by attending the public hearing mentioned, your taxes owed under any of the rates mentioned above can be calculated as follows. Property tax amount equals the tax rate times taxable value of your property divided by 100. Now, we met, I forget the date, but we had a meeting right here and we voted on this proposed tax rate. And in favor was Commissioner Matuno, Commissioner McAnally, Commissioner Brandon, and myself, County Judge. Commissioner Morris was unable to be at that meeting. He did vote. There were no opposition and nobody that was present that did not vote. Like I say, this is about the 19th budget I've done. This is the first one I've done with Margie, and it seems like between the two of us, I know that we put the required notices in the public notice that was posted and for the newspaper and so forth. I was looking through the corrected proposed budget. I know the information's in there, but it looks like there's supposed to be a statement in there that's just what I read off of the public hearing. You know, that this budget will raise more property tax than last year's budget by, we calculated those numbers and we put that in the newspaper. You have that notice?
No,
Remember we went back and forth and
right. It's gonna produce $492,965 in
Right.
increased revenue.
right, and then there was, the next line was a rate. It's 8 point something, I believe.
Yes, 8.2, yeah, 8.2, the tax, yeah.
Yeah, there it is. It's right here in front of me. All right. Proposed budget will raise more property taxes than last year's budget by $1,111,272, or 8.29%. And of that amount, $492,965 is tax revenue to be raised with new revenue added to the tax roll this year. There you go. In this budget, I did not propose any raises in the budget, and that generated some grievances, which we'll have a public hearing on the grievances that are remaining pending on Friday, right here, I think at 9 o'clock. Sent out, we determine who serves on the grievance committee in the same manner the statute prescribes, and that's, this year we opted to pick out people from the public that served on the grand jury, both of the courts. Ms. Curry gave me a list. She came down to the clerk's office and cut the names off the list with a giant pair of scissors that's been around in my office forever. Popped them in a receptacle, just like it says, and drew them out, put 24 names in there. One of your employees drew the names, and they will serve in the order they will pull out of the hat. So we put 24 names in. I don't expect 24 of them to show up. The first 9 are here that are on the list. That will be who's on the grievance committee. That's how that's done. I've had one call from a lady who said, well, I wasn't on the grid. I said, no, you're on it because you were on the grand jury. Were you on the grand jury? She said, yes, I was. I said, well, I look forward to seeing you at 9 o'clock. Now, you may have gotten more calls and questions. I hope we get 9 and show up. I'm not sure what we'll do. We've never had people that are willing to give their time to serve on the grand jury. Most usually don't mind serving on grievance today. Because I think we've only got 2 left. Anyway, didn't propose any raises. I think I did. There's one position. I know of one position we added. I think last week or the week before when we were going over where can we find more money to offset the costs that the hurricane dealt us with the roof being banged up and having to send the inmates off. The inmates trying to make a record here, so that's why I just keep going on. Prior to the hurricane, we were happily accepting other prisoners from other jurisdictions, and we were they were paying us $75. Those counties paying us $75 a day to house those inmates. So that's, since the storm did that to the roof, the jail had to be evacuated, and we had to not only send the ones we were getting paid to keep somewhere else. Now our inmates, and at that particular day was around 60, or have been sent. The sheriff did a great job finding various locations where they could be housed. But now instead of taking money in, we're not getting that money, plus we're paying out $75 a day. None of that is planned for in the budget. We've got money that we've saved over the years by being conservative and quality control. It's helped generate a healthy fund balance. But anyway, budget-wise, there's not a line that says this is what you pay to house inmates somewhere else when a hurricane comes in and blows. We don't have a line like that. I don't think we had one back when you were there, Brother McCutcheon, did we? This is the first time this has ever happened. So anyway, I'm trying to justify why I put any raises in there, because we've got unexpected, unbudgeted bills to the tune of, well, $5,000 or $6,000 a day for every day that we're housing inmates somewhere else. By the way, that's still not impressive. We sat here a couple of weeks ago and we went through and cut every single department's budget, a little here, a little there, so we closed the gap on. We still didn't make an allowance for the how that's going to get paid, other than, well, I mean, that's, if worst comes to worst, it'll have to come out of fund balance. That's kind of why you have fund balance. So in case of a disaster, you do have something to fall back on. And taking money out of the fund balance to do things like that, that's okay. In my pea brain, I'm not sure if that's how you get raises, but saving accounts. Like, to me, going on vacation and spending all of your savings account. But that's just my opinion. There's no question in my mind that all our people work hard. Everything that they go to the store to buy is going up: gas, milk, eggs, bread, you name it. So, do they deserve a raise? Absolutely. I think we've, by all that hard work we did last meeting, we found things we can cut, and I think we're probably going to be able to afford a raise for the employees. Not a big raise, but I think you ran it out there. You printed a couple of spreadsheets, I believe that actually I think all that cutting and rearranging or proposed, nothing was voted on, but we all kept the record of it. And we have a consensus that we can go that direction and maybe create delays. That actually, we did incorporate, we had 3 tracts of land that proposed to be sold, and we put that in there. They should close, they're all in the title company right now. That made a pretty good difference, $298,000. We upped that. Last year we only had 30,000 budgeted, and none of those deals closed. That proposed sale did not go through. So that created a little bit, that was hitting the high points here. Fund balance designated for the current year. In the original budget proposed budget that I filed on August 15th, that line, we proposed to take $152,521.82 out of fund balance for the current year for general fund. We actually 2 weeks ago in the last meeting have trimmed that down to $118,507. So we made some good progress there. And I think I believe this is the version that actually has the raise in it.
The one that was sent Friday, Thursday.
August 29th, that's the version we're operating out of. I actually thought we were going to generate one that didn't have any raises to see where we actually were before raises, so we could determine whether we could actually afford them. This does about the same thing. It makes it be look at each line, so that works. I think as far as all the required disclosure, I think that pretty much is one. And we went over in the last meeting any other slight changes that were made, and we covered all those. And you took copious notes, and everything that the court kind of, well, they had a consensus on. You put that in, that's reflected in this August 29th version.
All the changes, yes, sir.
Yeah, you're right. It's right there on the budget. I guess at this time I will open the floor up to anybody from the public. Yeah, I got one from Mr. McCumpin and Mr. Dieter, but anybody, you don't have to fill out one of these at a public hearing. I'm going to call on Mr. Dieter first.
Your Honor, Commissioners, the reason that we're in the dilemma that we're in right now is plain and simple, and that has to do with our sheriff's office and our sheriff. And I made mention the other day under my breath that was caught by the judge that over the last 4 years, there's been letters that's been submitted to all of you commissioners, including the judge, as to what needed to be done with the sheriff's office and the jail. The reason that we're in the predicament that we're in, where we only have basically an answering service at the sheriff's office at the current time, we have no inmates, that's already been made mention of. And I hear every day that you're losing $6,000 a day because the inmates are somewhere else. Guess whose fault that
didn't
is?
come from, let me stop you right there on that. That didn't get caused by the storm. The day after the election, I got a call from the county judge in Trinity County. What's going on? Y'all, we were told to come get all of our inmates. That happened in March. I have no answer for why that happened. So we were already losing money on the inmates. We're $200,000 behind our projected revenue. I don't have an explanation for that. Now the storm, if we had a change of heart and we decide to let them come back, we can't do that now because the hurricane tore the jail. So go ahead, Mr. Deere. I just want to make the record clear about when that started.
Well, it actually started in May 19th of 2021. Here's a letter, and I meant to make copies because I'm sure somewhere in your files you already have them. But this is from the chief, and he is saying in the latter portion of it, the American Rescue Act has also made available $5,597,025 available to this county to provide relief due to the huge cost borne by COVID at that time. This office is requesting budget workshops concerning these funds. The communication system is antiquated and 50% inoperable throughout the county. This affects EMS, fire, and all law enforcement agencies working in this county. The sheriff's office itself is in dire need of repair. The roof leaks in multiple locations. Wiring is haphazard and dangerous, as proven by the recent fire that was caused by a lightning strike. There is no fire suspension system to prevent destruction of criminal records and personal records. There's no emergency fire exit in the rear of the administration building. And luckily, the people were able to get out without harm. Now, this is in 21. If you go to 22, there's also a request from the sheriff for numerous positions. I won't go into all of them, but the operating cost of the sheriff's, and this was on 5/12 of 2022. And if you go into 2023, We also anticipate a need for capital outlay for 4 more patrol vehicles, $200,000. There's also looming cost for radio and communications equipment, which is far outdated and beyond service life. It is unknown what these costs will be, but they are substantial. We request an official study and appraisal be done by an outside contractor to develop a county-wide communications plan utilizing all available resources. If you go into 2024, we're talking about a very dire situation. As the court is aware of, the sheriff's office suffered a catastrophic communication failure during the week of January the 7th through January the 13th. And I can tell you, I was a part of that because that's the day that I had my episode and ended up in the hospital. And the thing that I'm trying to get across to you is this is not a current situation. This is a current that has been looming, as the chief so adequately said. And now we're in a situation where you are doing everything you can to squeeze here and there. But what I don't like is the fact that you blame the sheriff for the situation that you're in when it's not the sheriff's fault that you're in this situation. It's your own fault. Every one of you sitting up there. Because you have neglected and ignored the requests that have come to you through the years from the sheriff's department as to what they need in order to make this community what it was designed to be, with safety and security. Another thing that I had concerns about regarding the budget, in the fund budget there was allegedly $32 million in there. Well, I got an updated version of it. There's $30 million in there. And I also got an itemized list, which I haven't had a chance to go over yet. But, and the other thing, and you well know this because I've expressed it a number of times, when it comes to paying for the county's radios or the sheriff's department radios, you took that money out of SB 22, which I found out from the controller and the attorney at the controller's office that technically you're entitled to it. But why in the world should the sheriff's office offset the expense of communications for the county when it's the county's responsibility to do that for yourselves? The reason our sheriff's office is in the predicament that it's in, the blame lies with all of you because of neglect that continues. Our sheriff's office deserves your undivided attention, and when they have needs, instead of it bouncing off the wall back there, you need to give them the attention that they deserve and our county deserves. There's more that I could go into, but I've probably taken my 5 minutes that was allotted to me for a change. I just don't like the fact that our sheriff has been demeaned from the time that he took office on November the 14th, I believe it was, of 2014. He deserves more respect, and we demand it from the people.
Thank you.
You made a couple of good points there, you're right. We needed more radios and so forth. The court responded. We spent $360,000 on, I think, 60 handheld radios and around 20 mobile. Have the mobile units come in yet? And so, I don't have a magic wand, but as we figure out ways to respond, we try to do that. There's also another $800,000 coming through DETCON. I got a request to have one of the board members, Commissioner Natuno, that. Do you know anything about the timeline on when that's going to provide, what do you call it, consoles, 2 consoles, and I think some repeaters. Repeaters are things that go up on the radio towers, I believe. I'm not a radio expert. So that's it. I don't know why it's so slow to get done, but they got a lot on their plate, and we're getting near the end. There's light at the end of the tunnel on that part. As far as the roof leaking, it sure has, and we just committed a month ago to spend $380,000 to fix that. Well, you mentioned something about everybody up here fussing with the sheriff. I back the sheriff on most everything he's ever done. I've never said the sheriff caused the hurricane to come through. He described standing outside. He says, I don't judge, what do? You're sitting outside. And he's actually told me he's actually saw the back end of the roof flopping, bam, bam. My secretary saw it. He didn't cause that. Nobody's trying to blame that on him. That's not his fault. He's a powerful man. The sheriff's are, but ain't none of us can cause a hurricane to come tear the roof up. He had to make some tough calls, and just recently, I think he found a place to put 12 or 14 inmates that's lower than the $75 that some of the jurisdictions are paying. I was going a little further, but I applaud him for that, saving us a little money. We broke loose or somewhere like that, isn't that where it's at?
Beauregard.
Beauregard.
Beauregard Parish.
I think we'll deal with that contract with our 10:30 meeting. But, you know, nobody thinks he caused the hurricane to tear the roof up. I mean, I know better than that. You talked about cars. I'm not sure if we've got any cars in this, but I think we bought in the last couple of years like 14 cars or something. They came up with a plan to do a leasing thing with Enterprise, which was a new thing for us. It took us a while to jump off and do that. It's a new, innovative way of doing things. I believe that it's worked pretty well, as far as I know. It keeps us in later model cars, and they run them for a year or two, and then they trade them in on more new cars.
There's no new patrol cars in here.
No, you're right. You're right. I didn't put any new cars in this proposed budget. I'll tell you what else isn't already in there is how we're going to pay for all the money that's going out on the housing the inmates, and we know how we're going to pay for the roof. We're blessed to have some American Recovery Funds that you mentioned in your oration to the tune of $5.5 million. And the court studied over that and gave, I think it went to various interests. Some of the water companies were giving some of that money to help deal with some of the costs they were having to move lines and upgrade the infrastructure. $1 million of it went set aside in a fund to help. We're going to fix the courthouse basement there, but we hadn't got around to pulling the trigger on that, so that's where the money's going to come. All these shortfalls, and it is a blessing that we have it to use for that. We'll have to. Did we have, you talking about on the latest version? I think we added that. That wasn't, I don't believe that was in the original budget.
I didn't hear what you said, Commissioner.
That there's 94 in there.
Maybe we did.
Yeah, I
think that's the lease.
That's the lease. But that, you're right. That still provides vehicles.
That's the lease.
That's what it wasn't. It was to cover the lease. It's not an outright purchase, but that is providing vehicles. That's a good point. So there is some in there to keep the lease up, which generates new vehicles. It's just not a flat out purchase.
You know, the lease vehicles ain't patrol vehicles. Huh?
They can probably adjust
Sorry?
Anyway, we have it. He's absolutely right that we've had needs that popped up over the years, and they have brought it to our attention. We've done our best to meet those needs. We're never going to meet every single need that comes through, but we are our ways. Any material been delivered yet?
No, we just talked, you just showed me a text, it'd be here the 15th, I think, right there.
The 15th?
I think that's the day they want to start. Material's supposed to be at the 11th.
I figured it would.
I think that after they made the bids, I think we did a change order. Is that on the days? Change orders on the days, because I think there was some issues, all that flopping up and down. There's some structural changes that they needed to do something with some of the choice of girts or whatever you call those pieces. All right.
Judge, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Do we really have $30 million in surplus?
I wish we did.
I didn't hear it. She said 30 million.
I don't know where that comes from.
30 million where?
In surplus?
No. That might be the value of the courthouse and everything else that we own all added up together. No, ma'am. It is not.
I think what our outside auditor told us, we had 6.8 in there. Is that right?
Yeah, that changes every day.
That's what our auditor told us.
That's the general fund.
Is that what? Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a blessing. We work hard to do that, and that's why we can't afford to do that. But you know, I first got here in 3 or 4. They were walking around wondering. We had less than $500,000. Wondering how the license. Somebody was wondering how we going to make payroll.
Hey, where did you put the capital outlay?
No, ma'am. We don't have 30 million in cash just sitting over there, getting old, you know, ma'am.
I was gonna say.
The road bridge funds, some of them have close to $1 billion. Because they've been here lately since Harvey. We've actually had years where you get grant money in from Harvey or from federal government or whatever. You spend that money first. And that's pretty much the way it works. And you had years where you didn't spend it every single nickel out of your regular budget because it was all you could do is to lay down enough asphalt to use the other money.
Is San Jacinto County paying to fix the bridge over there by the dam?
No, ma'am. That's text done. mean, if we pay taxes every time you buy a gallon of gas, yes, you kind of are, but, you know, it's not our, that's a state road, so, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another good reason why these gentlemen have tried to save and keep a pretty healthy fund balance in their road bridge budget, because I know up in Point Blank, in that water booth, they had 10-foot covers blow out. The cover, one cover was, what, 10,000, 100?
20,000,
How much?
So I spent, I think, 700,000 out of that 79 account.
Now, the 79 account is a line in the budget. It's not actually, there's not much money in that account. It's taken out of whatever funds we have. We pay the bill, and then we're, in the same breath, we're filing an application, a PW, I think they call it, to FEMA, and eventually FEMA will reimburse us 75% of that. So it might be something, you know.
and out of that 79 accounts, probably up to $1,100,000 at least.
So we're
1.25.
you'll take money out of whoever's fund balances, wherever you know, that's an auditor question, but, and then when FEMA pays 75% reimbursement, we put it back in, and that's kind of how it works. You don't have it.
So that's part of that 6.8 million.
Yeah, if you don't have a fund like that to draw it out of, you couldn't have fixed any of the revenues. That's, plus I think we told, you're supposed to have at least 4 months of operating money in reserve.
They said most of the counties do 6 months without some auditor, they said. That's what they said.
I saw an audit report that said had 1 month on there. I said, I don't know where you get that. That's not our policy here. 1 month. That's not right. 6 acres. Mr. McCollum, I know you got a word or two for us.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Judge, Commissioners, for letting me talk, but, I'm gonna say, this is kind of my disclosure, okay? And I'm gonna say, whatever y'all do, taxes, not gonna raise my taxes, I'm over 65. My taxes are frozen pretty much.
I think I made that statement to y'all here a week ago.
Oh, yeah, I'm making this statement.
Thank you.
Part of my thing is I've always been about transparency and trying to be more open with everybody what's going on. Anyway, and so just been looking at some things, and first of all, I don't know if y'all have it, y'all probably do, you know, the Texas Association of Counties puts out an annual proposed, I'm going to say, calendar for how you set the tax rate. And it gives all the dates, different things. But
How did I come in on when we filed the proposed budget? It said August 15th. I hit it right on the nail.
yes, sir, you did. So I read the newspaper, and so on the handout I put it up there, and so this notice of proposed, I'm going to say, salaries for elected officials, it actually came out on Thursday the 29th. That's what the paper said. I actually got it on 28th. But if there was salary increases in this, it wouldn't have met the 10 days. I just want to point that out. I don't know what process this thing goes through or whatever, but and I realize our local newspaper is only once a week, and you know, it's kind of hard to get all the timing just exactly right.
So you're saying it wouldn't make the 10 days to approve the budget after this meeting? Is that what you're saying?
The raises, yeah, the raises for elected officials, it wouldn't have met the 10-day notice, yeah. So, but by the same token, there aren't any raises in
Officials were
this.
given notice well within 10 days when the grievance committee hearing is, if that's what you do. I don't know if that's what you're saying.
I'm not really getting at that at all. What I will tell you is, going way back, if you go back to the back of your packet, and I've always said this, and this is a ruling that was given by John Cornyn when he was Attorney General. If you go back, I think I have it highlighted there, that misleading notice is no notice, okay? And I can't tell you how many phone calls that I got asking me if elected officials were getting raises. Because even by this document, okay, I'll show you, if you look at the second column on what was posted in the newspaper, it says 23-24 proposed salary. And that should have been 24-25. I think this thing could probably be much more, I would say, concise in the way it is all worded and everything. Because the first column, I think, ought to be sit there. It ought to be total compensation, okay, for the previous year, which includes your salary, the car allowance, the longevity, all that stuff. And then if you want to break out what the new year is, that's well and good. It's kind of a moot point, but my point is, it was almost misleading to the public. There's a bunch of people out there that thought, oh, the county officials are getting raises. Because that's what it says. Oh well. I just wanted to point out, if you can be...
What are you looking at that says they're getting raises? Because I didn't put raises in there for anyone.
It says notice of proposed salaries, and everybody thinks that's a notice of raises. Anyway, I'm just saying you can actually put too much information out there that people misperceive that there is. I will tell you, I can't tell you how many. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, on top of the fact that it didn't make the 10-day rule, I was just pointing out that if next year y'all want to give raises, you might want to start a little earlier or something, because what was on this year didn't quite work. All right, let's move on. If you recall, I think it was a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, a year ago, I guess it was, I had called your attention to Local Government Code Section 111, which is all about the budget. And I had previously said things about this. And there's two sections in there. One is about the approved budget. Then there's a section in there which is section 111.003. And it's about the proposed budget under section B. And it says the proposed budget should contain on the cover page, and I think you read it earlier.
I read it every time I have a meeting.
Yeah.
Somehow, apparently,
It didn't make it in the proposed
Didn't
budget.
make it in the proposed. I don't want to throw anybody on the bus. They printed it all up, and it's their first time. And I didn't catch it either.
I understand, and I will say, last year you were, I'm going to say, criticizing me because you said that it's the same as it was in previous years, and I just want to point out the fact that this particular clause and stuff has changed, was changed in 2021, and that was well after I was commissioner. So.
Yeah, I remember when you were commissioner.
Okay. All right. The next section I want to talk about is 111.004. And it says itemized budget contents. And it says under section B, it says the budget must contain a complete financial statement of the county that shows, number one, outstanding obligations of the county. And you can probably surmise what those are if you go through every line and every fund and whatever. But I had a conversation with you, Judge, about the debt obligations in the courthouse, and you referred me to the auditor. And I talked to her, and she told me that the budget that was out there was incorrect. I'm just saying. But on top of that, it also says item number 2 is the cash on hand to the credit of each fund of the county government. I don't see that in that proposed budget, but it is proposed budget. And at the same time, y'all had a meeting last week. Yes. Y'all had a meeting last week where you were changing the budget already. So regardless, I just am up here to say that the budget that's there is not, I'm going to say, completely sufficient for the public to make any kind of statements about what we should do or how we should do it. And now we're shooting at a moving target. And I don't even want to go into line items. And again, I'm going to point back to this thing here. It says, misleading notice is no notice. And that's pretty much all I have to say. And I also will say that under section 111, in section 111.012, which I think I've highlighted in y'all's packet, it says an officer, an employee, or an official of the county government who refuses to comply with this subchapter commits an offense, and it's a misdemeanor punishable by a fine of $100 to $1,000 and or confinement to the county jail for up to 1 year. 1 month up to 1 year. So I'm just saying that the notice and what the public got could be somewhat confusing and not complete disclosure.
The notice on the salaries? The notice on the salaries is what you're talking about?
Notice of the budget here. And I would point out in that same AG opinion that the test is substantial compliance, and I would submit to you that we are not perfect. The budget's 186 pages long. She tried to put every possible figure she could in there. There's always room for improvement. I'd make some notes, and if there's some things that you mentioned that they need to put in there, then so be it. We appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
Okay. All right. That's all I have to say, Judge.
I think when I started, these things were about 50 pages. They've grown. It's 186 pages. I guess there's always more information you can put in there. Brother Sweeney, I got about 45 minutes. You don't get up there and pat us on the back and tell us what a good job we're doing. I'd like to hear some of that. Or anybody, does anybody else have any comments they want to bring up?
I do.
Okay.
I got Attorney General's opinion on the elected officials' raises, and their opinion is if you do not adopt the budget, that you can still put in the paper for the elected officials' raises, and then adopt the budget after it's been in there for 10 days, the 10-day notice. I gave it to the commissioners. I believe Todd Dillon has a copy of it.
You got a brand new one, or you found an old one?
I contacted TAC, spoke to TAC, and they sent me Attorney General. So,
You didn't request to do one, I didn't think so, because the only people who do that is the auditor or the DA.
I also read in Local Government Code, Chapter 152, as the procedures for setting amounts for elected officials. Each year, the Commissioners Court shall set the salary, expense, and other allowances of elected county and precinct officers. The Commissioners Court shall set the items at a regular meeting of the court during the regular budget hearing and adoption proceedings. Has the court ever voted on the elected officials' raises? Vote not to give those raises.
We haven't voted on the budget yet.
You set out a proposal saying we're not getting raises.
You don't understand what a proposed budget is?
Yes,
It's a
you also said
proposed budget.
once you put it in the paper, it was a done deal.
No, I didn't say that. You might have drew that conclusion.
No,
You
you
have to
said,
put the notice out.
and now
it's a
we're going to get a
proposed
raise,
budget.
we have to do agreements.
And you did. You filed a
Yes, I
grievance.
did.
You have that right to file one. You may not understand how this works.
I do
Every
understand,
year-
I've done just as much research and than anybody else has.
You're not gonna let me answer, I guess I
What
won't.
you're doing is flawed. You waited to the last minute to do everything, and now everybody's just rustling about trying to fix something that you did.
Something that I did?
Yeah, it's your job to do the proposed budget. It's your job to put it together. You waited till the last minute to do that. You did it like 2 weeks ago. That was our first hearing to work on it.
You don't tell me how I do my job, don't worry. I can tell you
You're
that.
exactly right. The community does.
That's right.
And I'm part of that.
You are.
You sat up here last week and yelled at me about the grievance when I said, if you will just consider a raise, let me finish. If you'll just consider the raise, all these elected officials came up here and worked really hard on their budget to tighten the belt, to do for the people, they do for the community. We try to put our employees first. You stood up here and screamed at me, you're doggone right. You will pull back your grievance, because if you think that I can't convince one person to go against you, you're wrong. You do not care about the employees. You care about your agenda and your agenda only. You're a self-serving judge. And I hope that you start doing things differently. I know you have a lot on your shoulders, but you sit up here and tell everybody that you put the budget up and there was no raises. And that was not true. That was far from the truth. Your best friend, his employees, you put a raise in. You did the same thing for OEM. You made some changes on the 911 permitting to cut one budget line item for one employee to give another one a raise. Did you? You did.
Did I what? What are you talking
You said you gave raises. When you told everybody, and you told them today, that you did not put any raises in.
I didn't put raises across the board.
No, you didn't. You were self-serving. You gave your friends and your employees raises. And that's what I have to say.
Okay, can I speak now?
Yes, absolutely.
I think the first one you're talking about, precinct 3, justice of the peace. All 3 of the other precincts, they have an employee that pay, let's just say $42,000 plus insurance of $9,000. That's how their administrative help is paid. In precinct 3, he's operated his budget with about a $36,000 salary, no fringe benefits. So The other precincts are operating at $52,000. He's operating at 36. So I disclose that every time we've had a hearing. I said when I filed the budget, I put that in there, but I don't keep repeating it over every time I walk up to somebody.
Judge, you are right. You are correct on those numbers. I absolutely give you.
I mean, I'm roughly, he's operating lower, so yes,
every year before budget, you put in his raises for his employees before you decide anybody else. I've been here 6 years, and every year before we start our process, that is the one office that already has their raises in there.
that's not true, but
That is 100% true.
I wasn't quite finished because
Okay.
you made about
I just want to
7
make
or
sure
8
that
allegations.
we were not misleading.
Okay, and I disclose that every time on that particular one. Now, there were some changes, 2 changes made in 911, I believe. There's a position in there at 31,000, and there was another one at roughly 41,000. The 41,000 has not been filled since the gentleman that worked there left.
I'm sorry, who are we talking about?
Talking about 911, I think that's what you're talking about. I added up, and I told Trish came in, was having trouble. She said, I don't know if I can hire anybody for 31. I looked at the budget, I said 41, 31, add them together, divide it by 2. Now you got 2 positions at 36,000. So technically one of them got a raise, and the other one got a decrease. No change in the
Yes, sir.
budget.
You took from the position that requires a class and a license to do. You took from that position for us to be able to get a person that has a license to give another position a raise.
It's just a proposed budget. If they want to change it, they can.
It is. But the thing is you get up there and you say there is no raises done, but it's not true. It's not factual. I'm
There's
asking you
no
to be
raises
factual.
across the board. I try to disclose every single one. I brought this up before.
Misleading. And the raises from the precinct 3, you do not disclose that. The commissioners bring it to your attention that they see that it's done. You don't
Whatever you
disclose
say.
that. Okay, you're right. Transparency and being equal. Not
You're
saying-
assuming that I had no conversations with the head of 911, Ms. Trish, saying we hadn't met, talked about this, came up with this.
That's not what I'm saying, Judge. What I'm saying is you sat up here and said there was no raises and that wasn't true. I'm not talking about backdoor meetings. I'm talking about here in front of the community. I'm not greedy. I'm asking for everybody across the board to have the same thought process that one employee is not better than the other. When you give raises, you need to think about everybody, not your friends or your own offices.
Every budget we've ever had, when we give raises, it's all across the board.
Every budget we've ever had, you have been against the raises, and the commissioners had to fight tooth and nail for them.
It's a process. I can't start off with raises until we go through the whole process and we work through what our priorities are. Just like this year. I didn't know they were going to come in and cut somebody out of every single, but they raised enough money to be able to afford the raise.
We did, but you didn't.
That's true. I don't have an hourglass. I can't see into the future what they're going to do and what their priorities are.
You're right.
This is a process.
Yes.
This is how it's done. Do I
But
like
when
the
we
way
were
it is?
trying to make changes, you got mad about it. When we got up here and came together, it made you mad. That's why you yelled at me. It made you mad that we
Because
came
we had a
together.
little discourse that got a little out of control.
Yeah, it made you mad that we come together
You're
and
screaming at me
try.
right now.
You're right, and I should lower my voice.
And I apologize to you.
You did, you apologized to me for yelling out, but your words is what you told the other elected officials that pulled their grievance because you said, I'll make fools of you.
I didn't tell anybody I was making fools.
Then why what they told me was the exact words you said up there?
You made a point a while ago about the court has the right to change. What I thought was just something to start with, a proposed budget.
Then why do you fight the whole time?
I'm not fighting, I'm doing what I think's right at the time, man. I still don't know how, I'm sorry, you weren't through.
No, go ahead, I apologize. You're right.
And just for the record, it's not like we're old boyfriends and girlfriends. We fight like we are, but we're not.
We're very passionate about it.
Yes, ma'am, and I applaud you for that. I'm not perfect. I filed a proposed budget. I'm very conservative. I didn't know how we were going to pay for the roof. I didn't know how we were going to pay. I still don't have in the budget of how we're going to pay for all this, other than taking out the fund balance, and then we have to declare an emergency, take the money out. We can do that. That's something I'm trying to avoid at all costs.
People pay taxes to handle those things, not for us to sit on it, to make those changes.
But we got to start with something. All this is, everybody in the room understands that, but I'm not sure that you do. It's just a proposed budget, man. We worked through it, through all these hearings, and we're going to probably have more meetings about it, and then we'll decide what we can actually afford. I submit to you, there ought to be a way, once I file the proposed budget and we work through the budget, and that's why there's 5 of us up there.
Exactly.
If they find other ways, well, hey, Judge, why don't we do this? That's exactly the process that we go through. It'd be great if I knew it all and I could just come up with a perfect budget at the start, but it doesn't work that way. We got to start with something. Yeah. We can always add raises, which is what we always do. We always add the raises when we've worked through everything. We said, well, we got the money to buy the cars for the sheriff, or we got the money to hire the tax collector, or whatever is the priority.
Put me in it.
Well, every once in a blue moon, but it's been a long time since you've asked.
It's been a long time. We've begged for 30 years for it.
I get it. You're right. One other thing, it is in there. Mark Wells, IT guy. I put another employee in that.
And it was well deserved.
I think so. I do too. And the court, they could have said, "Oh man, we can't afford that. He just needs, tighten up." They all agreed, and we didn't vote the other day, but this is just how we do it. We go through the whole thing, line by line, and then we kind of make notes on what we're going to do and just ask the auditor. That's just how it's done. It seems, before all the input is gotten from all the parties, to expect me to know what those numbers are in a proposed budget, and then to be barred from giving the elected officials a raise because you don't put it in that notice to start with, then you don't get it.
Maybe we should have started the process a little bit earlier.
You are aware that a whole lot of the work was done with the auditor and I, and she was out for about 2 weeks.
She was out.
Okay, if you say so. I was out 14 days when I had it, because that's what they said you were supposed to. I know.
The rules have changed since then, but.
Maybe they have, but she wasn't able to do it.
Couple of days now.
What? Yeah, she's a couple of days, 5 days. I just ask that you have more transparency about what is really going on And my job is to advocate for the employees.
I'm glad to hear it.
Well, the last meeting, I don't know if you were here or not, but we got a proposal that does have employee raises in there. We found, like I say, nobody cried too much when we took a little out of most every budget. I took $1,500 out of the county court budget, the whole budget ain't $12,000. We all gave a little to try to make that happen. But that's just how, it ain't up to me, I'm not the one that's supposed to just decide what it is, and we don't need any more meetings. Yes. Anybody else got anything they want to say? What can you buy that? Where do we take that? Knock it down to 100.
Am I allowed to ask a question, Your Honor?
Absolutely, Mr. Stevens.
With what is happening here today, does this finalize the budget?
No.
No? So there's going to be more hearings for the public, or?
If I don't have the statute in front of me, but we're supposed to act on it within, I think,
7 days.
7 days, is that the, okay. That's the problem. You got all these restrictions and notices, and you got to make it all fit together. 7 days. I guess we're going to post a meeting for probably the 7th day.
Well, where my concern is, we started with a budget, then we had a revision, and now we're
It's
working.
not just a working budget. We have the document that got filed, and then we met in a budget workshop, and we went through line by line and figured out where we can cut and where we can adjust revenues and so forth.
So this is the third one,
I don't know.
technically.
I'm not sure. I think this may be the 4th. It's going to be 3rd or 4th. We had one early, and it wasn't. We didn't have any much input, which is pretty common in the first budget hearings.
And
We didn't accomplish a lot in the first ones.
okay, and my next question is, when the raises take place, does that include the commissioners?
On the day that we vote on the budget. I remember a year, we had no contracts. The sheriff got out and beat the bushes, jail contracts. Walked in with a handful of budgets. On the day of the budget hearing, thank God he showed up, we were able to give him a decent raise. Best raise we've ever gotten.
But does that include the commissioners? Does that include the commissioners getting another raise?
Good question.
I don't see how. People have led, and I believe Mr. McDuffie may be right. He believes that we're stuck with whatever we put in the initial notice that was in the proposed budget. So, yeah, they printed out something that's got raises for elected officials. But,
Well, because
those were not put in the original budget, and then the notice that got put out. I don't know. I think you'd be violating the rules that pertain to those notices he was quoting statute about.
okay, but
I have read some areas of the law that leads me to believe there is a way, because like Ms. Bailey said, the court sets the budget. What I found is just a proposal. So why are they held to what I put in the proposed budget? As misguided as I apparently am, in what I did. I didn't do that to I didn't think we could afford a raise, that's why I put that in there.
So I guess his question is because I haven't seen it, obviously. Is the court going to be having a raise? Are y'all getting a raise when others are not?
No.
I'm sorry, no, we've never, ever do, I'll never vote for anything like that.
Thank you.
Well, that's not
We did get
exactly,
raises, and the employees did get raises.
that's not exactly what I was referring to. I remember in previous budget meetings that there wasn't any indication that the commissioners were going to get an additional monies until after it was done, and the general public didn't have a chance to say one word. It just happened, and I'd like to think that's not going to be a
The
repeat.
public hearing is for y'all to come and give your opinions about what, just tell us what you want us to know. Do you want them to have raises? Do you think they deserve a raise? Elected officials in general?
Well, let's not go into that, because Ray and I got the blame last time in the grievance situation.
I'm talking about it, Mr. Digger. You gotta tell me what you want before we're supposed to get input from the community, and then we listen to that. It don't mean if 300 people showed up and says no raises, that doesn't mean we have to do it, but we value your opinion, and that's what this public hearing is for. Y'all give us input so we can, think about it, ponder on it, and then when we come back on the day we vote,
You can ask Ray, because he's been sitting in these chairs before, and I know he'll tell you the same thing. Some of these decisions that we have to make, they're not the easiest ones to make.
Ray's pretty sly. From what I remember about Ray, when Ray was over there, he'd know we're getting a raise, but he'd vote against it. Just so nobody had to say, well, I didn't vote for that raise.
I just don't want a repeat of what has happened in previously, because as you can tell, it's still in my crawls what happened last.
I believe he's right. I haven't found something that contradicts what he says. I believe what he's saying. You're stuck with what you put in the original budget as far as the elected officials. That seems grossly unfair to me. It takes away the power of the court. The court as a whole makes that decision when we vote. How can I keep them from being able to give a raise just because I didn't put it in the original budget? The employees are not bound by that. If he's correct, they're not bound by that. They can get a raise whether we get one or not.
But
We don't have to disclose what we're doing. Well, we put it in the proposed budget, but and Ray, you know the process. You've worked through 4 of these things.
Yes,
We
sir.
work and toil, and we try to find places we can save, things we can cut. So perhaps we can buy the sheriff more cars, or perhaps we can give a decent raise.
My brother was actually an assistant DA when this particular ruling came out, or I would say Attorney General opinion came out. It was about Guadalupe County. And Guadalupe County had posted the fact that they were going to give a raise, okay, a 3% raise. But that at the end of the day, the raise was not just 3%; it was like 26%.
Oh, Jesus, I thought you were going a different direction. So suppose I put in there that we're gonna give a 5% raise in the proposed budget. And then, almost like what happened here, the storm comes along, blows the roof off the jail. Now we got $500,000 worth of something we gotta try to figure out how we're gonna pay for it. So we say, guys, we can't afford the raise because the roof flew off the jail. That opens up to all the elected officials to file a grievance again, because you'd really be, things would be popping out of my
difference between a proposed budget and a proposed elected official salary. You can go down, you just can't go up.
No, if I cut your budget, you
No, but I'm just
we all
saying,
have a right to follow
when
through.
you post that, you can post it a little higher, because you can always come down, you just can't go up.
So,
Just a suggestion.
Well, we don't want to get the blame, Ray and I don't want to get the blame that if the employees get a raise, we don't have a problem with that as long as it's equal. But we just don't want any sneaky stuff taking place that has taken place previously.
So such as when did we give a raise that we didn't say we were going to give?
I believe it was in 22, if I'm.
That was the year the sheriff walked in with the contracts. Things changed. I'm glad he did. I still don't know how he got him to $75 a day, but I'm very proud of what he did.
It happened at the end of the day on a budget, at the end of the day when you voted yourselves a raise without us knowing it until after it was done.
We didn't vote ourselves just a raise.
It was for everybody, not just us, it was for everybody.
So what am I hearing? What am I hearing? You don't want anybody to get a raise?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
What are you saying? I'm a
What I'm saying is, I just don't want a repeat of what happened last time. It was very unfair, and you can tell it sticks in my craw because it happened. You gave yourselves, I think, an additional $1,000.
To say what really happened on that day was the very end of the day. It was about 4:30, and I think Miss Dee Dee, the county had gotten a refund from the insurance. It was like $36,000 or something, I think it was, and that money went towards raises for y'all, but y'all had not posted in the newspaper that raise, and that's when y'all had to all grieve. Remember?
That's when we give everybody travel pay raises to.
We consulted with the district.
It wasn't just us we gave raises to.
Yeah.
It was to all the elected officials who did travel and everything.
I think
So it just wasn't us that we gave it to. That's what y'all assuming. It wasn't. It was every elected official here.
Commissioner, I think what the point they're trying to make, and it's getting kind of covered up, is there is a process that we go through, and they're asking that the process be done right. Even to this year, everything was crammed in at the last minute, and people were losing out, and people are not able to keep up because the process needs to be done right. Judge, you say all the time, I've been doing this for 20 years. By now, this process should be on point.
Let's keep changing the process. Miss Bailey.
We just want transparency.
We've always posted the notice. I don't know that I've ever put raises in a proposed budget because I'm familiar with the process. We have budget hearings. We get down to what the needs versus the wants, so to speak.
So maybe we should have more meetings before this proposed part comes out.
So I think one of the problems we have is 2 years ago, like what you're talking about, the legislature changed the budget process, and they actually cut us out of some stuff we're supposed to do and reduce the time.
I guess the only way to not have the grievance thing pop up is just put raises in every single year, whether you think you can actually pay for them or not. I just can't make myself do that. we're gonna, between loss of income, 6,000 a day for, how long has it been? When did you ship them out, Sheriff? They've been gone a month?
Yeah, on, I believe around July, the middle of July.
Middle of July.
July the 14th.
July 14th, so a month and a half, that's 45 days and that's right about 150,000 in lost income, plus another 150,000 that we're paying out. That's 300,000 that we need. It's not even in the budget. And if it goes, I think the roof will be back on before the end of this budget year. I certainly hope so.
I think we worked last meeting to pay all of that. We found ways to pay all of that, so let's not revert back to before then. I think we worked hard enough to do the money and went through that.
You're right, but when did we work that out? We worked it out after I filed the budget.
Right.
In my defense, I didn't know what we were gonna work out. I'm sure glad we worked it out. I'm glad for the help I got here. I don't know it all. I don't know it all.
On something.
But I can't just put numbers in there that I don't believe in. It's hard to do. But maybe, maybe that is the way to do it.
So can I ask a question to the company? Do you want the employees to have a raise? Do you want elected officials to have a raise? Are you saying, what are you saying? I'd just like clarification.
I'm saying that I thought I made it very clear. You voted yourself a.
That's not the question. I would like a direct answer. Do you want the elected officials to have a raise? Do you want the employees to have a raise in this current budget year? That's what I'd like to know.
I don't have a problem if that is feasible. We just don't want to get the blame that if you do choose to give a raise, and there is, we got the blame last time, Ray and I, because of the grievance that took place, but the grievance really wasn't necessary because we didn't object to the raise last time for the election.
Believe it or not, it wasn't just about you. The fact was, you pointed out, Ray very correctly pointed out, that there was some deficiencies in our notice. So the DA said, well, do it all over. And then when we did it, every single elected official filed a grievance. And they were all unanimously approved, but it was a process that you had to go through. The reason we corrected, not just because of what you thought, the whole citizenry, they might have been concerned that we didn't do it the right way. Y'all said we didn't do it the right way, so we did what we were advised by council to do correctly. We did everything we could do. I'm sure we fell short, like apparently we do every day.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, but then you trample down the answer afterwards. So, do you want the entire county to get a raise, or do you not? Or do you just want the employees and not the elected officials? I'm just trying to clear up what you were.
Well, look, I guess you could say the county employees are more. Why wouldn't you? You're separating the elected officials and the county employees. The elected officials would include you, right?
Yes.
So the elected that answers my question. Then you're going to get a raise right along with them.
No, that process actually is separate.
Well, let's hope it is. I have no problem with the elected officials and the county employees getting raised.
As long as it's equal.
Huh?
As long as it's equal.
As long as it's equal.
Good deal.
Let me kind of restate that the proposed budget got filed. We've had some hearings. Was it last week or the week before? adjustments. We took money out of various budgets. We've adjusted revenue. Last year, we estimated 600,000 in inmate revenue. This year, like 240, because we don't have any contracts at this moment. The inmates, that should change once the roof gets fixed. But I'm forced to make a decision to file a paper because law says I gotta file it August 15th. We probably should have done more work on it. But it's not a perfect world. So we've made the changes that we think we can afford. We've worked through all that. Nothing's been voted on. And I think what the court is actually considering was generated on August 29th based on the changes that were suggested. That's all that were suggested. None of them mean anything until the day we vote. Which, you say 7 days? Is that, we got to act within 7 days?
Within 7 days.
Within 7 days of the public hearing. And if we don't, what happens then?
You revert back to last year's budget.
Or you have to go again and have another public hearing. We have another public hearing.
So, I mean,
Check that out for you.
if we have
In the Attorney General's opinion that we have,
That's by statute. Yeah, that's by statute.
we can have another public hearing.
we already, they said we, so, okay.
You just have to vote on your rate by September 30th.
We're not going over the rate, I can tell you that.
But you still have to vote by September 30th.
I know that.
For the budget and
The rate and, that's true.
so, do we want to stop this meeting and go into our other, because we have a 10:30 appointment with those attorneys. And they're
Time rolling.
Well, they're gonna get paid. Is there anybody else this public hearing, I ain't closing it down until everybody's got their chance to say what they want to say. 7 days.
have them pulled up right here. Count the weekend.
It's just days, yeah, I think we do count, if it's a day, it's
You count the day.
no,
So 7 days, what day?
it's 7, 9, 11. I just don't know what day of the week it is. It should be on a Wednesday, just like today is.
The 23rd.
If 7 days is the magic number, then I can tentatively set a hearing for that day, so we can be in compliance with the statute. Figure out how to. Not sure that we have any need for another public hearing. I'm not hearing any opposition to anything that's in there. They just don't like the way we file the notices or whatever.
We don't have,
Here that's, wants to express opposition to an inmate, all the employees getting a $1,000 raise, that's what's on the table right now. I hear nothing, so at this point, we're going to conclude the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. I have a motion by Commissioner Brandon, a second by Commissioner Morris. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it, unanimous. Public hearing is adjourned. This time.